So Sandy will go first. She'll introduce Cisco and talk a little bit about what they're doing, and we'll take it from there. Sandy.
Thank you, Richard, and good afternoon, everybody. Perhaps I might just start with a couple of minutes overview of the company for some people that may not know Cisco. We are a global technology company, about 30 years old now. We used to think of ourselves as a young company, but given that I've been there 15 years, we are aging quite quickly. But we started off as a technology company out of Stanford University in the US, and it was a husband and wife team who were trying to figure out how to email each other across different buildings. And the outcome of that was that they developed what we call a router, which is very unexciting to people outside of the tech business. But they developed a new technology, and out of that, really, the company Cisco was born, taking its name from being not far from San Francisco, our logo being somewhat of a similarity to the Golden Gate Bridge. So this was back in the mid-'80s. And if you fast forward about 10 years to the mid-'90s, still a relatively young company, but the internet was starting to grow, networks in general were starting to grow, the industry was really starting to take off, and we had a couple of engineers at the company that were engaged with some local schools. And the schools were asking them to help prepare some teaching materials, some curriculum to help them understand what this whole networking internet thing was and how they could teach students about this new technology. So these engineers built some materials and collaborated with the teachers, and they thought that was great. And of course, once they started to do that, more schools started to ask for these materials. And so it wasn't going to be very practical for these two engineers who had this great idea, who were working with a couple of schools, to really be able to go and do that in many, many schools. They were actually doing this as just part of their, not part of their full-time job, part of their interest area. And so I guess what they did then was they really applied a bit of a multinational, big corporate thinking to that problem of how to really try and scale this, and started to think about, well, how could as Cisco we use our expertise in technology, networking, the internet, to really help scale some of the work that was going on in a rather small scale around a couple of schools. And that was really the beginning of what became the Cisco Networking Academy program. Back in the mid-'90s, about 1997 it really started, and this small team of individuals at the company started to build some things around this original curricula. So they started to build a learning management system and internet-delivered curriculum, which in those days was not very common. People were used to getting sort of books and paper. They built assessment technology, and they started to put together labs and hands-on experiences for students to make it interesting and engaging to learn. And so in collaboration with the academic sector, really started to build a curricula that could be changed and modified quickly, because the industry was moving very quickly, and it still does in tech. So what we had found previously is a lot of the schools were teaching technology, but the books were 10 years out of date because they need to be updated so quickly. So using the technology that was at our disposal and our expertise, we were able to not only help to teach the curricula and scale it, but also to be able to introduce some different teaching methods and tools into the classroom. So it really grew from a good idea into a program that for Cisco has become our largest corporate social responsibility or social investment of the company. But when we started that in 1997, nobody was talking corporate social responsibility back then. Nobody knew what CSR was. And so it really started as, I think, a good idea that was solving a problem, and I had identified some needs. It was also something that made a lot of sense to the company, because as the industry was growing so quickly, there was going to be a huge need for people with the right kinds of skills, and of course a huge opportunity for people to get jobs in this growing industry and to have better opportunities in a new field. But education wasn't really keeping pace with that demand. And so it made a lot of sense to us as a company as well to think about ways in which we could support that, because the growth of our business, of our partners, our customers, and the whole tech sector was only going to grow if there were people that were able to deal with the technology, understand it, and enable it in different ways. So we took a public-private partnership model from the very early days of the program. So Cisco looks at what can we do, what's our expertise, and we focus on doing the things that we know we can do well. But what we don't do well is we're not teachers, we don't have students, we don't have schools, we're not in the business of delivering education direct to students. So we looked for partners that were complementary. And so I think the program grew very quickly because we had found a little bit of a sweet spot between what we were good at, what we weren't good at. We found partners that were good at that, and that what they didn't have, we had. And so today the program is in 170 countries, and we're seeing around 1 million students a year participating in the Cisco Networking Academy somewhere across those countries each year through those partnerships, and they would be with academic sector, NGO sector, and others that are really in the business of outreach through skills and education with a technology underpinning. So I guess it sort of caught up with us that we didn't think we were doing CSR. We found that we were doing CSR when it came along, but the program, I think, because it has very much been anchored in equal goals of social benefit and business benefit, that it really has sustained as a company investment now for nearly 20 years, which I think, Richard, you were talking about yesterday, how unusual it is for corporations to be involved in multi-year investments. And so I guess ours is a little bit different in that regard. It doesn't mean that all the partners we've had from 1997 are the same partners we have today. We do have some, and we do have some teachers who've been in the program that long with us. But you know, our partners will come and go depending upon their needs as well. But the program, I think, has sustained well for us because it does have those two underpinnings. We do a lot of work to evaluate the impact of the Networking Academy. We survey all of our students. We have an enormous amount of data because we have built some of these platforms to underpin it since the beginning. And so we continue to see that the program is helping young people, whether they be out of school and coming back into this to retrain and reskill, whether it be for students coming to this for the first time or even for adults in some markets who are looking for reskilling and retraining. So it's been adapted and it's been flexible, I guess, enough to be adapted in different modes, in different places, depending upon the needs. But it continues to help young people or people looking for new skill sets to become employable and have skills that are needed by the market. And I think that's what's continued to make it work. There's all sorts of challenges and things we've learned through the years, which I'm sure you'll grill me about questions later on in the discussion around things we've learned. But I think at the heart of it, they're probably the things that continue to make this a public-private partnership work, is really being able to leverage each other's strengths and not try and do things that we're not expert at or good at. So that's just a little introduction. I might stop there and we can take questions as we go through. So thank you.